Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MtG Traders. My name is Taryn, and this is the 10 best cards for Standard once Core Set 2019 releases. So I want to put this out there right now, right ahead of this video, before I get my opinions out here. This is my opinion. These are just kind of my picks, my favorites. They may not do anything in Standard at all, but they do things that I think would be interesting to have in already established decks in the format. Namely, cards like this one right here, Militia Bugler. This is a 3-mana 2/3 creature human soldier with vigilance. When Militia Bugler enters a battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card with power of 2 or less from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So I think this is a fantastic card for a mono white weenie. This could be a great card for a human soldier deck or a human deck for that matter. There was a kind of a human deck going around in testing prior to 2019, Core Set 2019's release, so I think Militia Bugler has a place somewhere in Standard. I'm not sure where it's at just yet, but I think maybe in a mono white or a Boros or just a weird humans tribal deck is probably where this card is going to go. Next up here for us is going to be a card. I don't think it's a white card. It's actually, yeah, Astrathopter. So for the next 3 months, you're going to see a lot of affinity decks, and Astrathopter is probably going to be in most of them. A 3-mana 1/4 legendary creature human artificer. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. You can also pay 2, sacrifice 2 artifacts, and draw a card. So in the Aetherflux Reservoir list, as well as just the Karn list, the mono blue or Simic list for artifacts, Astrathopter is amazing, super, like, just all-around bomb on the battlefield. It like survives strike, it survives any 3 damage spell. Has to die to basically Unlicensed Disintegration or Vraska's Contempt or a Revolted Fatal Push. So those are the only things that can really kill this. A 1-mana Fatal Push can't kill it unless they have a Revolt trigger going on the turn. I think this card is incredibly powerful. Is going to be seeing a lot of play in the format in Standard. And yeah, in the Aetherflux Reservoir list, if this is on the battlefield and you cast, you know, I don't know, between 6 and 8 artifacts, which is like not a big deal in that deck, because you have a lot of 0 mana cost stuff, the Astrathopter is going to create a ton of 1/1 flyers for you that you can either win that way or just use them as like blockers on your side of the field. Incredibly powerful for that deck list. Next up is another blue card, which is Teza, Artifice Master. This is a 5-mana 5 loyalty legendary Planeswalker Teza Mythic from the set. You can +1, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. That's decent and does make a blocker for itself, so that's good. 0 here, draw a card. If you control 3 or more artifacts, draw 2 cards instead. So this card with Karn, Sign of Urza, is amazing. Again, in that artifact list from the Aetherflux Reservoir or the Simic artifacts list, there's a bunch of Karn lists going around with artifacts. Teza makes it so much better. Turn 4 Karn, turn 5 Teza, insanity. And -9, you get an emblem with, at the beginning of your end step, search your library for a permanent card, that could be even a land, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So I think this card is probably going to see the most play in an artifact deck right now in the next 3 months. As far as when rotation happens, I'm not so sure. It feels like it might be a good card for an artifact deck for like a control strategy, maybe an Esper list, something like that. The emblem here is super impactful, so it doesn't necessarily win you the game, but it can make sure you have a ton of bombs coming out turn over turn or land or whatever. Lots of land for me. If I'm thinking land, I think of control lists. So that's what I think with Teza right here. I think this card is a fantastic spell, though, for the Standard format. Moving on here to black, we have Demon of Catastrophes. This is kind of an easy pick for me. There are a lot of black spells like at the rare slot, uncommon slot, stuff like that in Core Set 2019 that I think are really, really powerful, but they kind of have, like, the catch is that they're all tribal based or they're all kind of type creature based. So you have like Liliana, but she's only really good in like zombies. You also have the Zombie Lord and other things for zombies. But Demon of Catastrophes is just straight up value. A 4-mana 6/6 flying trampler. Additional cost to cast this is sacrificing a creature, and that is super easy to do in a hidden stockpile or Orzhov list. This could be even in a blue-black like artifact list, making this a turn 4 6/6 flyer trampler. Amazing card. I think this is going to be super impactful to the format. While I don't think it'll be like amazing, like as far as like the Thopterist here, I do think this card is a card that if you get it out early and you have it in a demon deck, maybe, you know, because that is a deck that's coming into fruition in Standard format, then this card is going to be a truck in that deck. Moving right along to other spells here, we have Bein Fire. Bein Fire's back in Standard. Now, Bein Fire, I'm kind of just including this here because I think this is finally the spell that puts a Jaya Ballard mono-red burn deck over the edge. Makes it a really like competitive deck, maybe tier 2, maybe even tier 1, depending on how testing goes. But there's a Jaya Ballard deck out there, and this card once... Oh, I hit the mic there. And then this card is needed in that deck really heavily. I think this is a huge improvement for the burn decks in Standard. Bein Fire, if you guys don't know, is a sorcery. X and red deals X damage to any target, and if X is 5 or more, this spell can't be countered and the damage can't be prevented. So this is a spell that means if your opponent is playing control, then it just happens and we get to shoot down either like a Torrential Gear Hulk, we get to shoot down their Planeswalker, we get to shoot down their face and just win the game that way with Bein Fire. So one of the best red spells in the game, one of the best red spells is going to be in Standard for a mono red burn deck. Really excited to see this kind of crop up in those kind of lists. Just excited to see Bein Fire in Standard to begin with at all, as well as going to see it in Limited too. Next up here for us, another red card, Demanding Dragon. This might be the card that replaces Glorybringer here once rotation does happen. A 5-mana 5/5 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, deals 5 damage to target opponent unless that player sacrifices a creature. So if they're playing control and we play Demanding Dragon, they may not even have a creature on their side of the field. And what that means is we basically just shoot them for 5 in the face and have a 5/5 flyer on our side of the field. So super powerful. It's kind of like pseudo haste. Someone was explaining to me like, well, if they don't sack a creature, it's basically doing 5 to the face, so that's kind of haste itself. And I was like, you know what, you have a good point on that. So I like this card a lot for that. I do think this card might not be as good if like some mono white weenie decks, some more go wide strategies come out in the format. But right now, just kind of seeing how Standard is, I think Demanding Dragon is really positioned really well to be a good counter removal spell against like control strategies with mono red, but also be a very good spell against like more go big strategies like mono green. So super good card. Can't wait to play this in Standard. Next up here we have Gore Claw, Terror of Kalsisma. I think that's how you pronounce it correctly. A 4-mana 4/3 legendary creature bear, rare. Creature spells you cast with power 4 or greater cost 2 mana less to cast, and whenever it attacks each creature you control with power 4 or greater, gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. So there are 2 green cards in the top 10 here for me, and Gore Claw is one of them. This card is insanity. Playing this on turn 3 and then swinging in with something else on turn 4 is just ridiculous. I cannot wait to play this card in Mono Green Stompy. I'm not sure if it's going to have like a permanent place in the Mono Green Stompy list because it can die to a Lightning Strike. The 3 toughness here is there for a reason, and make sure that you can get it with a Lightning Strike or get it with an Abrade or something. But regardless, if you can get this down on turn 3, it is a truck. It is a massive like mana devaluer for your entire deck list, getting out all your spells a lot faster than normal, making basically Ronas here a 1-mana creature, which is just stupid. So I think this card is also a good card for us because a lot of the creatures like Gigantasaurus and Corset 2019 don't have trample. They're just vanilla creatures. Whenever they attack out and this card attacks out, you know, it gives it trample, which is a huge threat. This is definitely the card that's like going to die to a Settle the Wreckage, obviously, or a Seal Away, something like that, because it has to attack to get it out. So this is one of the cards where it's like, I don't think it's going to see a ton of play, but if it does see play, it's going to be amazing, and I can't wait to see it in Standard. Speaking of green creatures in Gigantasaurus, it's on the list as well. Gigantasaurus, a 5 straight green mana 10/10. It's a vanilla, so you might say to yourself, well, this is just a 10/10 vanilla. It gets blocked all day long. And you're right, but think about Gore Claw just before this, and think about Ronas's ability, and think about all the other spells in the format that give things trample, and Gigantasaurus is ridiculous. It can also be played on a possible turn 3 if you get Llanowar Elves in the battlefield, or turn 4 if you get Llanowar Elves in the battlefield. Just a very, very powerful card to begin with. I cannot wait to play Gigantasaurus. It's going to be a truck. I keep saying truck in this video, but it's going to be just a powerhouse in Standard. It's going to be a powerhouse in the actual like draft and sealed format as well, barring any straight removal. But this is definitely a card that has to be removed with either Unlicensed Disintegration, Vraska's Contempt, a Seal Away, Settle the Wreckage, you know, the normal stuff like that. But it can make sure that your Galta Primal Hunger can come out extremely early, and it can make sure that you have just a huge like threat on the board just immediately on turn 4 that has to be answered or blocked immediately. So love this card card a lot. I think it's a good card to play right after Steel Leaf Champion and get out a Ghalta the turn after that, or play this on turn 4, Ghalta turn 5, something like that. This card is insane. Love it for green. And I believe the last card, nope, not the last card, but a good card here for control, because I haven't really talked about control, is Chromium the Mutable here. A 7-mana 7/7, a legendary creature, Elder Dragon. The only Elder Dragon I feel like will probably see standard play. Now, there are some Elder Dragons in the actual format that I think are powerful, and we'll see some brewing, but I think Chromium is probably the best one out of the lot here. A flash, this spell can now be countered, and it has flying, and you can discard a card until end of turn. Chromium becomes a human with base power 1/1, base power and toughness 1/1, loses all abilities, and gains hexproof. It can't be blocked this turn. So 1, it can't be countered, so it's good against the mirror matchup. 2, it's a 7/7 flyer, so it gets around basically everything. And if your opponent does target it with something, we can just discard a card and it becomes a 1/1 hexproofer, and it can still get in for 1 point of damage unblockable. This card is a house. This card is super powerful for control. I cannot wait to put this in the main board, maybe even sideboard against like the mirror matches for control. But for Esper control, this is basically the perfect creature for you. I mean, can be countered flash and flying. I mean, that alone makes this card amazing. But having the ability to transform into a human, making it hexproof and still doing damage, this card is amazing. Cannot wait to play this in standard. And the last card in here is Sigil Sword of Valeran. Because I think White-Black Knights and White-Black Soldiers is a deck that's going to be coming up pretty soon. This is a card that's kind of on my mind in that deck list coming up. A 3-mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has vigilance and is a knight in addition to its other types. And whenever equipped creature attacks, create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance that's also attacking. So giving your creature basically the ability to make tokens, have vigilance, be more powerful, and make another 2/2. This is also a very good card against like a Goblin Chainwheeler style situation because it creates tokens that have 2 toughness instead of 1 toughness. So I think this is a good sideboard tech against something like that if you're in the knight list or the white, black, or white like soldier or human list. I think this is a very important card for that. Definitely needs to be brewed around a lot more. It is 6 mana for both, so I think that is the full drawback of this card, is that it's a little slow, but at the same time it creates tokens, it creates board presence, and you can equip this to a token and continue to attack out with tokens, making more tokens. So I like that it doesn't have to like claws where you have to put it on a non-token creature. That's the thing that makes this card pushed over the edge for me, and that's what makes me think it's going to see a lot of standard play. It's one of the few equipments besides like a sword of, you know, all the big swords in the actual like Magic like arena thing, not arena, but you know, multiverse kind of thing. The Peace of Mind, all that kind of stuff. It's one of the few swords here that I really do like in standard that I think is going to see a ton of play, or at least brew around play for that format. But that is my top 10 cards that I think will see standard play. Now, there's not necessarily like a, you know, fast and loose rule of me saying that these cards will definitely see standard play. I think they will for sure. I think the green cards more than anything will see standard play. I think Militia Bugler will see a lot of good mono white play or some weird white weenie deck play. I'm really excited to see the Astrathopter in the artifact deck. I think that card is just ridiculous and can go off like crazy for just existing. But I do think that there is a ton of stuff in Core Set 2019 that definitely is like under the radar right now for me that might come up through brewing, and it'll be a lot better than I realized it's going to be. But that's going to do for the video, guys. Like it if you like it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and if you're going to a pre-release this weekend, make sure to, you know, sign up ahead of time to let your local game store know that you're actually coming, because they could run out of tickets or they could run out of pre-release packs. And make sure to, you know, watch the pre-release primer video I did. It's going to be right here for you guys, right there. It's going to be right there for you guys if you want to check that out for sure. And the core sets and all that kind of stuff I did on the videos as well, and on the set as well. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.